It's time to talk fantasy football. It's time to let them know. Where you let us crunch the numbers while you crush the competition. So grab your playbooks and crack a cold one, because here's your hosts, Teak and Baney.
Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the podcast. Week 13 we're going into. Seems like the season is flying by. We got a mailbag today. I know we didn't on Thanksgiving for the mega. I've already lost the title. The mega Thanksgiving extravaganza. There you go. So that compares to what? I don't know if you watch the Fantasy Footballers. That's our Megalodon episode. So
it was our best one yet, dude. I tell you what, between the bets, the prop bets, the sit starts, it was a great weekend for the boys.
It was bigger than my plate of food, so you can still watch it on YouTube. Go subscribe, let them know. Podcast.
Not my plate of food.
But moving on here, we do have a mailbag. Let me see if I can get it up to you here.
From Mr. Dimitri.
There you go. I'm going to roll the tape.
What's up? Let them know, boys. First off, I have to give you guys a huge shout out here. You guys are doing amazing work, amazing videos. Everything you guys have been doing this season has absolutely blown my mind. So I just want to say, keep up the good work. You are getting love from me every single time you do it. But I'm going to get to my question here now. I'm a huge Packers fan, okay? And with these recent W's that this young Packers team is putting together here, is it a little bit too early for me to get excited about Jordan Love? Or is it a little bit too early for me to get excited about the Packers potentially squeaking into the playoffs here? Let me know.
All right. Jordan Love. I know we talk about him a lot on this podcast. I know that was the deep dive for Badge, and it looks like Jordan Love's turning it around. He's putting a nice little season together in fantasy as well. I don't know if you guys realize he's sitting at the number 9 QB right now for fantasy. But also, just to talk about his numbers real quick before I get into answering his question, he currently has 2,599 yards, 19 TDs, and 10 interceptions. Okay. I want you to name this player I'm comparing him to.
I already know, so you can quiz Badge.
Badge?
Oh, man.
2,697 yards, 18 TDs, and 10 interceptions. Who's that player? Without you Googling.
I ain't Googling. That was my pen. I don't know.
Major difference would be the 11 rushing touchdowns, but there's your hint, Badge.
Jalen Hurts?
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts, yeah.
So he's putting up numbers, man. Yeah, you could say the 11 touchdowns, but not everybody does the tush push.
They certainly don't.
So, yeah, I would definitely be excited. He turned it around. I'm going to admit I wasn't big on him in the beginning. But what he's doing with that core there and that young core in Green Bay, it's definitely something to be excited for. I mean, there could be worse. You could have Desmond Ridder as your QB. So I definitely would be excited for Jordan Love. And yeah, for squeaking in the playoffs, absolutely. I mean, this team, next couple games, besides Kansas City, you got the Giants, Tampa Bay, Carolina, Minnesota, Chicago. That's 5 out of 6 dubs I can see that Green Bay could win. So, yeah, I'd be excited for both, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I think the excitement would be more like – I think it would be more common if he didn't really stink the first couple of weeks of the season, because there was a couple of duds. However, these last 2 weeks were against pretty poor secondaries, and well, he put up big numbers. But Christian Watson has also emerged from the old woodshed out back. He's finally contributing. The hammy looks like it's finally attached. But yeah, I think craziest stat I actually heard today was that I think the Packers playmakers, like the wide receivers, stuff like that, they're the youngest group in the NFL. And that's like adjusted by like snap counts. Like out of everybody else in the NFL, like he has the youngest receiving core and quarterback. Like next couple of years, I think the Packers are going to be all right. I do. This week, I don't think it's going to be what we've seen the last 2 weeks, but we'll talk about that later. But Dimitri, I don't think you're crazy. I don't.
Yeah, Dimitri, I appreciate the question and all the love and support you give us. Appreciate you, man. Absolutely be excited about Jordan Love. He was on my deep dive. So, I'm going to keep talking about that as long as he keeps slinging, So, 7 touchdowns in the past 3 games? So, he's bringing it. He might have figured things out over there in Green Bay. First full season as a starter. I think he's just going to continue to grow. So, absolutely be excited about him. Like Teak mentioned, that schedule, you win, you get in. Just keep winning, you're going to get in. So, this team's young. They're playing with some fire. You just beat the Lions on the big stage in Thanksgiving. Yeah, it's not crazy to think they're going to could squeak in that playoff. There's 7 teams now, so could absolutely get in with that schedule. Thanks, Dimitri.
But moving right along with that as well. We always appreciate the video mailbags. I know we love doing them. I know the boys do. So keep on sending them in for us, and we'll keep answering those on our starts. But we're going to move along to the starts ourselves here. QBs, Baney.
Teak, I need you to check my pulse, see if I'm doing okay. I think I'm a little sick. I'm starting Kenny Pickett this week.
Whoa! Oh my God!
Listen, there's some buys this week. There's some people looking for talent at quarterback this week. Lamar's going to be on bye. I think Josh Allen's on bye. There's some big names on bye this week. And I think Kenny Pickett's available in majority of leagues. That being said, great matchup this week. All right. We talk numbers here. We talk matchups. We put the bias aside. Arizona's given up combined 600 passing yards and 6 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. It seems like Canada being gone has maybe cured the disease that has been the Pittsburgh Steelers offense these last 2 seasons, 3 seasons, 5 seasons. How many has it been? But that being said, man, they finally figured out what the center of the football field looks like. They got people, the ball in space. Freiermuth finally activated. Every fantasy expert, every talk show that you paid attention to at the beginning of the year said this guy was going to be a top 10 tight end this year. Unfortunately, the injury happened, and he wasn't getting any usage before that. But, man, they took the chains off the guy. And, yeah, I don't know. Maybe you can talk about the Deontay Johnson debacle that is happening right now. The locker room seems to be in shambles. However, Kenny Pickett's throwing the ball, and I think there's going to be more points this week than we saw last week, Badge.
Dude, I'm like in a daze right now. I need some water. I don't have any water, but damn, Baney. I like it. As far as Deontay Johnson goes, he's anytime the player doesn't get the ball, A.J. Brown, they get frustrated. Giving up on a play that was BS. But he said he didn't see it. I don't know. Only one knows it's him. The tape says otherwise. He got blasted over there, and he got called out by many analysts. Ryan Clark was on him. Ike Taylor gave him some fire as well. I'm not worried about that. And the locker room seemed to come together once they got rid of Canada.
Minka and him got into a fist fight.
Yeah, they're coming together. So they got rid of him. George Pickens was celebrating with his teammates. So good start. Like you said, the matchups there. He's probably cheap in DFS lineups as well. FanDuel, let's go. Yeah, I'm in shock, Maney. I'm in shock, but I like it. I'll pass it on to Teak.
Fantasy wise, I don't, and I'm going to tell you why. That wasn't even his highest fantasy game to date. His highest fantasy game was with Canada, and it was 18.5 fantasy points. This week against Cincinnati, which doesn't have a great defense, 11.62. Arizona has a little bit better defense than that. I just don't see it. I mean, will he hit projection? Yeah. 12? Yeah. Touchdown, he's basically almost there. He's a third of the way there.
That's what we're missing. That's what we're missing with this whole offense. I think we get it this week, Badge. Rooting for you.
They averaged over 6 yards per play. That's pretty good. DFS lineups, some value might be there. It's probably cheap.
Hey, our do it for Badge prop bet hit this week. I'm just saying.
Pickett. You need to light some more candles this week if you expecting 20 plus out of Pickett. I don't think it's going to happen. But for projection at 12, yeah, I can see him hitting that.
Hammer that DFS. He's going to hit 25.
A Badge?
I'm out of it, so I'm still in shock with Baney, but luckily I got my notes here. So, Baney, I don't want to do this because you just made my night, but I'm starting Brock Purdy against the Eagles. So, it's simple. The Eagles defense is allowing 25 fantasy points to quarterbacks this season. That's the second most allowed in the league. I'm very excited to watch this game, though. Very excited. Brock has a lot of weapons. They're clicking. Everyone's healthy. Debo's back. I expect him and this offense to explode this week. Be a great game to watch. Very excited. So I'm starting Brock this week.
I'm not surprised. It was very close for him being my start as well. However, last time he played this team, they failed to block the edge rusher, and he got his life annihilated. So hopefully we see that again. I could really see a game script where 49ers just run the ball a lot. Eagles lost a couple of interior linemen. They lost their middle linebacker. Feel like I say that every single week. This defense can't keep anybody on the field. It's going to be a game. And that being said, it's going to be the 49ers Super Bowl. Like, they've been talking about it every interview, every chance they get. They want this game. And yeah, Philly's defense is in a real bad spot right now. So I could see this being a big game for just about everybody on that offense. So it's a good start. I couldn't make myself do it. I couldn't sit here and talk about it, but
I
can see it.
Well, they want the game because they didn't have Purdy during the game that mattered.
That's what happens when you don't block the dude with 18 and a half sacks. They put a secondary tight end on him. I don't feel bad about it.
So, hey, calm down.
I can't.
I think you're just more mad because if the outcome changes with Purdy, that Super Bowl has a nice little asterisk by it.
I don't agree at all.
But I like the start as well because it's my start. I think the game script's going to be a little bit different, though. I think we all know. I mean, Badge said it. You said Philly's defense is in a bad spot, especially against the pass. I think that's what the 49ers have to do to win this game. I think Philly's going to try to take McCaffrey out of this run game completely, the best they can, and make Purdy beat him with his arm. That's the way I see this game going. Baney might say a little bit different about the running the ball, but that's just how I see this game script going.
I think McCaffrey or Ayuk will be on our top scorers list next week. I called it with what's his name from CD, and it definitely happened. I mean, he had all the targets that he could want and more, and I could see a similar role happening. Just keep everything in front of the boys, and I think they're going to be happy giving up all the small stuff and PPR formats. That's how you win. That's how you win your matchups. So I could see Ayuk having a big game.
And Brock Purdy's currently in fantasy sitting at QB 11 right now. So where you got him in drafts, he's definitely overachieving on that portion as well.
100%.
But moving on to the running backs.
So running backs, I really wish that I would have stuck with my gut last week and told you to start this guy last week. I know I did in our sleeper league, and I benefited from it immensely. Kieran Williams, he was coming back off the injury. Everybody was like, oh, what's his limited role going to be? Well, we should have looked at all the signs. They let go of the running back that was, basically keeping his seat warm. And he was among the top league leaders in usage rate prior to going out. They put him right back into that role immediately. Massive usage rate, tons of work in the pass game. And the Browns are losing bodies right and left. Defense is dropping. Myles Garrett's going to be questionable to play. I think Denzel Ward's out. I just don't see, and their offense is in shambles right now. So I don't even know if their offense will be on the field much. It's going to be a ton of opportunity for this Rams offense, and I think Kieran Williams is going to see exactly what he did the first half of the season going into the second half of the season. And the Rams are going to make a playoff push, which is a wild statement to be saying right now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when this guy's healthy and in the game, he does nothing but put up points. Myles Garrett, you touched on, he didn't look good on the sideline. They brought him out
In a sling.
Yeah, so I mean, who knows what's going to happen there? If he doesn't play, I like it even more. But yeah, when this guy's healthy, we see what he can do. I mean, you got to start him. Huge game last week. Had a few others before he got hurt. Touched almost the 30s as well. They're feeding him. Stafford loves him. So yeah, I'm not going to argue that one.
Yeah, over 200 all-purpose yards, 2 TDs. So he's getting that work through the air as well. So even if you are worried about the run game, he's still getting that volume too, pass catching the football. So
yes, sir. So I'm playing off Baney here a little bit. Didn't know I was. He still has me shocked. Love it, Baney. I'm starting Jaylen Warren against the Cardinals. I've been saying it all along, all year. I'm kidding. But I'm starting Warren. This offense, especially the run game, seems getting momentum going. They're trying to establish that run, which they have been these past couple weeks. Arizona, second highest points allowed fantasy running backs this season. Great matchup there. Looking at them as well as in DFS lineups. Should be a bargain play, a lot of value. The big thing about this too, Broderick Jones. Ever since they made him the starter officially on the O-line, this line has been playing a lot better. Not perfect, but they're playing a lot better with that young kid. I expect a lot of run this game, a lot of running game this game. I expect Jalen to keep running hard and staying hot, starting Jalen Williams against the Cardinals this week.
So why is that? Why do you draft the offensive tackle in the first round and just start week 12, decide to start him finally?
That's how Pittsburgh's been forever. I mean, Lawrence Timmons, we drafted him in the first round. He didn't play the whole first year, other than just going in and out. Cam Hayward, drafted him in the first round. Same thing. This organization just likes to ease them in. They don't just throw them in. They ease them in. I don't know. I mean, I remember when Lamar Woodley was starting over. I can't remember. It was our first round pick, but they put him in. I'm like, why is? I think it was Timmons. They're playing him, and I'm like, why is this happening? But I don't know if that's what they do, and I mean, it works, I guess. I was wondering the same thing myself when the season started, why he wasn't in the game.
Yeah, I just wish we could get defined roles between these backs, man. We hear Jaylen Warren's the starting running back. Well, they split a 50-50 snap share this week and carries. I don't get it. I guess the fumble kind of put him in the doghouse this week. Kind of maybe got Najee some more work than was anticipated. I don't know. But I think Jaylen Warren is head and shoulders better than Najee. Steelers faithful seem to disagree, but I think the fantasy world tends to lean Jaylen Warren. I think he's just a more explosive player. And hopefully that snap share dips more Warren's way. I think he's a lot of fun to watch. I'm guilty of putting him in DFS lineups almost every single week. Just big play. We saw it against Cleveland. He had that huge run. It's just big play ability. So I like it.
Yeah, and they've both been putting up similar points each week. I mean, I think that 1-2 punch helped Najee out.
Yeah, this week it looks like it did.
Yeah. He had a big week. He almost had 100. Last carry of the game, he ended up going backwards and lost that mark. But, yeah, I don't know, man. It's Najee the last few years has been top of the league in usage and snap share. And I don't know if it's taken a toll on him already. He's really young. I would hate to see that, but.
Yeah, they just have to run him up the middle. It seems like they always try to get him outside. Just run him up the middle, use that big body.
But moving on here to mine here. I've started this guy before. He's currently sitting at the number 6 running back right now, which actually is a huge surprise this season, especially where you drafted him. I have Rachaad White. Favorable matchup against the struggling 1-10 Panthers. I think this train keeps moving this week and he continues to have a good season. He's been consistent from week 7 on. I know he had a huge game week 2, some down weeks in the beginning of the season, but looks like he's been consistent through and through now. And he reached the top 10 now. So I have no qualms about this guy. He's surprising me. I was kind of big on him this year, but I wasn't thinking he was going to be this big this year, breaking top 10 and almost top 5. But it's Rachaad White.
Was it consecutive games of over 100 yards from scrimmage and a touchdown as well, I believe?
No touchdown last week.
No?
No.
Dang.
No, that wasn't him.
Well, he yeah, man. And Baker's kind of questionable. I think he'll gut it out, but like who knows what this offense looks like if Trask gets in there, so that could be more dump off possibilities as well. You know we love our full PPR and these running backs, especially Rachaad White all season has been pretty consistent, so it's a great start this week.
Yeah, and actually he was going to be my start as well, but I started him last week, so I didn't want to go back to back. I was big on him beginning of the season. I took him in 2 leagues, 2 out of my 3. Great matchup, like Teak said. I think he has another big game. Give him 100 all-purpose yards and a tutty and a few catches.
Moving on here to the wide receivers.
Yeah, it's a little known wide receiver, but he's one that I've been standing on a mountain for this year, and it's Demario Douglas. The Patriots are horrible. Quarterback situation, horrible. Everything about the team is horrendous. However, Demario Douglas is good. And if you're in a full PPR formatted league, especially a deep league, you should be knowing this name. All the targets in this offense are funneled to him. Kendrick Bourne's done for the year. Everybody else is no longer fantasy relevant. The only person now is Ramondre Stevenson finally getting the workload that we were hoping he was going to see at the beginning of the year. He ended up having 10.9 fantasy points this week. I think his projection was like 11. And it's because he got clotheslined and didn't finish the game. However, he's going to clear concussion protocol. He didn't get a concussion. So he's going to play this week, and on top of that, he's going to play against the Chargers. So anytime you get an opportunity to get a guy off waivers against the Chargers defense, you have to take that opportunity. DFS, you should be targeting this defense Wide receivers just week in, week out for the past couple of years have had massive games against this Chargers defense, and it looks like it's the same story this year. So Demario Douglas, he might not get you a ton of points or a ton of yards, but he's going to get you a ton of catches. Seems like week in, week out, back-to-back weeks with 9 targets. It's just a great little value play, especially if you're in a deep PPR league. So Demario Douglas.
So I don't disagree with the start. The only thing I have trouble with is trusting this Patriots offense and quarterback situation. I know he had a boatload of targets, 18 in 2 games, 6 receptions last week. However, I question the deep home run, big play ability. Definitely eyeing DFS lineups, though, for him. He's probably going to be pretty cheap. It is all about the targets. We talk about it every week. Boatload of targets. However, that quarterback and offense, it's a mess over there. So yeah, I don't hate it in DFS. Teak?
Yeah, you kind of hit where I was going towards the whole DFS thing. So, moving on to your receiver badge.
So my receiver, I'm going Jalen Waddle against Washington. Last week, he had a huge game against a very tough Jets defense. I feel this momentum is going to carry on this game against Washington. Great matchup for him. Tua seems to be finding him. His knees seems to be healthy. Now playing the Commanders defense, ranked second in most fantasy points allowed. I expect another big game out of Waddle, so I'm starting him this week against that sus Washington Commanders defense. Beanie?
Yeah, I think Waddle's been probably, I would say he's probably him and T. Higgins are probably the most disappointing wide receiver 2s this year. I think there was a lot of hype. However, I think that this is a great get back on track matchup. I do. I think that the Dolphins like to beat up on bad teams, and that's great for fantasy. I do. I think everybody on this offense should have a big game. And yeah, I have no disagreements, especially if you can beat up a team in the NFC East in for it all day. So it's a great start. Joan Waddle finally showing up for people. I like it.
He's my start as well. Tyreek's a little bit banged up too. I believe Tyreek's still going to play, but they might give Waddle a little bit more targets, especially if he shows any signs of injury. Like Batch said, Washington is a mess right now on defense. This team has been a juggernaut on offense all season long, it seems like. So, yeah, I like the start as well.
Yeah, I think Hill hurt his hand 2 weeks ago and then his ankle this week, if I'm correct. So
Yep.
He is a little banged up. So good call on that.
But Beanie?
Badge, hope you're buckled into your little car seat over there. Pat Freiermuth, I think you waited all year to finally play this guy. If you kept him on your IR the entire time, you're more than happy to finally get that thing off there. So a guy this week actually picked him up prior to kickoff, and I was like, it's kind of a weird choice, and paid off very well. But yeah, I don't know if it was a fluke or not. We're going to find out this week, and it's a great defense to figure it out against. I don't know. I just feel like it's an obvious choice. I feel like they're finally using them correctly in space, center of the field. Just get the guy the targets, and yeah, like I said, with Pickett, this team has given up a ton of yards, ton of touchdowns the last 2 weeks. 2 touchdowns to a tight end last week in Higbee. If there's work in the red zone, I think Freiermuth is going to contribute greatly to this offense. So, Pat Freiermuth, I'm not going to overthink it.
Yeah, he was the leading receiving yards last week for a tight end. Dude finds the middle of the field, uses him where he belongs. Tough player. Happy to see him healthy and back. Happy to see him used. Like Beanie mentioned, the waivers. I'm going to let Teak talk about that because he has a little story about his own in one of our leagues. But yeah, great start, great matchup. Love me some Muth this week. Muth.
Yeah, that guy Benny. I thought you were talking about me in your little story. I picked him up this week and I played him as well. Um, he popped off this week. Yeah, he does have a good matchup this week as well. So I know a lot of fantasy guys projected this guy to be a top 10 tight end, top 5 in some cases, and hopefully he gets rolling now from that injury.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Booth
got
won you some money too, real quick this week, didn't he? Take in
Yeah, for
our
the top
league.
tight end. Yeah.
We do a high scoring. It's actually kind of cool because it keeps everyone setting their lineup and getting engaged. So there's a weekly position. Week 1 could be wide receiver, 2 quarterback, 3 tight end, and so on. It was tight end this week, and Teak got him off the waivers, and he got paid for the week and is dominating that league.
That's pretty sick. Hey, I got a question for you guys before we go to badges. Do you think New Orleans could possibly have a sneaky tight end start this week? If not, in a lineup DFS, because I think Juwan Johnson and Taysom Hill are the only warm bodies playing this week for them. Olave might not play with the concussion. Thomas is on IR, and Rashid Shaheed popped the hammy. So is it going to be Juwan Johnson and Taysom Hill? How do we feel? What are you guys' thoughts, opinions?
Yeah, I mean, anytime the top wide receivers go down and you're the only available option, the quarterback's certainly going to look that way. So targets, great thing. We talk about it all the time. Not a bad DFS look. So thanks for popping that into my mind. I'm going to jot that down.
I don't know if you guys watch any of that game. That Lynn Boyden dude, not wide receiver. Jeez, Kobe. He didn't play that bad either, wide out. So that's another option too you can look at. And they were pretty big on that A.T. Perry as well. But I would rather go that Bowden from what I've seen.
Yeah, I don't. If you want to have some fun, you want to really tickle your brain, just look up the players that could possibly be playing wide receiver for the Saints this week. Their names I've never heard of, and quite frankly, they look like names that are on just like an auto-generated roster for like Madden.
Yeah, the tight end position's been weird to me this year. I mean, if you could take a gamble on a DFS lineup like that and hit, that's great. So that's what it's all about, finding that sleeper.
But Badge, who's your tight end?
So mine, I'm keeping it simple. This team, Denver Broncos, have given up the most fantasy points to tight ends this season. I'm starting Dalton Schultz against the Broncos. You combine that with C.J. Stroud's play. I know Noah Brown might be back. I know he's been spreading the ball out. But Dalton has his games. He seems to be C.J. Stroud's safety blanket, put up some big numbers. Great matchup against the Broncos, most points allowed per tight end. I'm going with the numbers. I know there's a lot of playmakers on that offense now, and that young offense. Again, I'm playing that matchup, going with those numbers. So, Baney, tell me what you think.
I think that the Denver Broncos might actually break my brain. Their defense, I think, is still dead last ranked. However, they've been like a top tier defense these last like few weeks, but the Dolphins loss just has them pinned at the bottom. It's just totally skewed all their stats. Might be a tougher matchup than we thought. However, this is probably the biggest pro CJ Stroud podcast you'll find. Yeah, and if you're betting against Schultz, that means you're betting against Stroud, and I'm just not willing to co-sign that. So I think that it's a good start for you. Schultz had a down week this week, but I think he's going to bounce back. I do. I think he's a key part of this offense moving forward.
I know in the beginning of the season you don't want to talk about the Broncos. Now they're sitting at 6-5. You want to start talking about these Broncos? But I like to start as well at the tight end position. That is, I got no qualms with that. Like Baney said, we're all for the CJ Stroud train, and I'm here for it. I don't have to get on my brother, a big Ohio State fan, that they don't produce QBs anymore. They finally got one right. So,
yeah, and the thing about the defense, too, the Broncos defense, during this 5-game win streak, they have let up 16 points per game Denver Broncos. So this defense a little sneaky right now.
But moving on here to wrap it all up. My guy sits at tight end number 7 right now in fantasy. I have Evan Ingram. Cincinnati's ranked 30th against the tight end position. He's primed for another good week, especially when at the tight end position you want 10 or more out of them. Ingram has been pretty consistent so far this season. Seems like when Ridley has a huge game, kind of dwindles back Evan Ingram and vice versa. But this is a week where I believe they both can have good weeks, to be honest with you. Cincy's defense is nothing special to write home about in my eyes. So I think it's going to be a good week for Evan Ingram.
I've been on the opposite end of the Evan Ingram love all season. However, I'm going to stand tall for Teak this week. Evan Ingram leads the league in most targets without a touchdown. This is the week he does it. He gets in there this week. I think he's going to do it. And I think Jacksonville is going to beat up pretty bad on Cincy. I think we're going to put a bow tie on those guys. It's going to be done. Yeah, that's all I really got to say. I don't know. I've heard a lot of praise all of a sudden for Trevor Lawrence. I heard a guy on a podcast say if he had an MVP vote, he would give it to Trevor Lawrence. If that happens, hands. That's ridiculous. This guy has not been that great all year. However, the target share, Teak says every single week, it's 100% undebatable. Like, this guy is fantasy relevant every single week. He's going to get a touchdown this week. Badge, put a bow tie on this thing.
Yeah, I mean, the targets, can't mention it enough. That's huge. No touchdowns yet this year. I'm going to go with you, Baney. I'm going to say he gets 2 touchdowns this game at home against the Cincinnati Bengals. Start him.
That's a tall order.
Tall, bold, and controlled.
But that does wrap up our starts episode. We appreciate you guys. Appreciate the mailbag as well. Hey, hit that subscribe button. It's totally free. I'm going to say it every episode. Probably going to get tired of me saying it. And I don't know, didn't have it across the screen today. I'm slacking today. But go to the Underdog Fantasy app. It is totally free. Use promo code LET'EMKNOW for a first-time match deposit up to $100. That's code LET'EMKNOW. Just type it in there. As soon as you enter all your information, hit us up where you heard from. And hey.
It's a nice little there's a nice little spot in there. It says promo code. You just type in "let them know," and you get free money. You deposit money, you get free money, and then you get to play with the boys. You get to put badges, plays in there. It's a good time, you know.
The Money Badger loves money. Use that promo code. Free money.
Thank you guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Let 'Em Know Fantasy Football Podcast. Join our community and follow us on all socials, or keep up with the episodes on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts.